What's up, family? I'm the guy that showcase and promote African-American businesses operating here in the greater Phoenix area. Please help me further support these amazing entrepreneurs by not only supporting my YouTube channel or following me on Facebook, but also stop by their businesses and give them a little economic support. My name is Shaka Shabazz, and this is African-American-Made. How you doing today?
Oh man, I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for this opportunity to talk to you, man. Such an amazing place you have here, and I'm just happy and honored that you allowed me to come in and showcase you.
Oh man, the pleasure is ours. Thank you for coming through, man. We're excited.
Thank you. So, won't you tell me your name and the name of the business?
My name is Ali Nervis. A lot of people know me as Brother Ali, and this is Grassroots Books and Juice Bar, also known as The Foundation, located in the East Lake Park neighborhood of Phoenix, Arizona.
Yes. Such an amazing place. I don't know where to start, man. There's so many places I want to start with you. But let's talk about where you're from and where'd you get the concept of coming up with such an amazing grassroots bookstore?
So I'm from Huntsville, Alabama, originally. My dad was military, so I grew up all over El Paso, Texas, Oakland, California, but mostly in Huntsville. I grew up in an entrepreneurial family, so I've been doing business all my life. And the idea of Grassroots Bookstore actually came through the community. So I can't tell the story of Grassroots without telling the story of Archwood. I'll just tell a little bit of it. But we host a Buy Black marketplace. We've been doing it for almost 8 years. And we were going to open a retail store concept. And right next door to that location that we found for the retail store concept was another available space. And somebody in the community, Ebony Johnson, was there checking it out. And she shared the idea of doing a cafe bookstore right next to the Archwood store. And I loved the idea. Thought it'd be a great way to bring community together, to educate, to inspire, to share space. And so that was where the seed was first planted. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get that location. The landlord didn't want either business there. And so, as time would have it, we waited for about a year. We found out about AfriSoul Marketplace, and that's where we opened. We opened inside of the hallway, tiny little space in AfriSoul Marketplace, and we've been growing since then.
What did it look like for you in the beginning? I'm sure you didn't start with the plethora of books you have today. What did it look like for you in the beginning?
We started very, very small, and I'm very appreciative of Dr. Little, who's the visionary behind AfriSoul Marketplace, because she created this entire space to do exactly what we've been able to do, to be able to start where you are, to start small with an idea and try it out. Because in doing business, sometimes it's so hard to get off the ground, to get up and running, because you have to have the money, you have to have the time, you have to have the connections. There's all these things that you have to have in order to become successful. And having all those things at the same exact time, can sometimes be difficult. And so what we were able to do is, like I said, we started in the hallway. It was just a little office that was right by the front door. And I made the proposal to Dr. Little to rent that space out for a couple $100 a month, and she was with it. And so I've got books from my house mostly, got some books from Goodwill. We had a lot of used books in here. Went and bought a bookshelf from a Christian bookstore that was closing down, and we were able to open. And we were still very small scale. Again, we only had a handful of books. We were calling ourselves a juice bar. We didn't have any juice. We had a couple bottled juices from Admore Beverage Company, who we still carry to this day. But that was our founding. That was our launch.
So from its inception, it was called Grassroots and Bookstore and Juice Bar?
That's correct.
Okay,
yeah.
So you had a vision to grow even at that point. You had foresight that something else was going to happen with it.
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
Okay.
We knew from the beginning we were going to be a juice bar.
So you had the foresight that this was going to be more than just a bookstore.
Oh, without a doubt.
Right, but you start off in a little room. I mean, when you were collecting these books, I'm assuming that you were a collector of books before that, right? How did you figure that you were going to expand it or grow it to where it was now? I mean, you have little money, not really knowing where exactly this is going to be, not really having a whole lot of connections. I mean, you mentioned that earlier. What gave you the idea that this thing would even work?
I mean, I knew we needed it. You know, I knew that we needed a community space, but especially one that was devoted to knowledge, right? I'm always looking for, as a quote unquote woke person, I'm always looking for ways to raise the consciousness, to raise awareness around the issues that we're dealing with, but more importantly, the solutions, right? And so I just knew that at some point we would get to a level where we would be able to do that a lot more effectively than what we were doing it when we first started. I knew that that's how that was the natural process in order to things. Also, you start small, right? It's just like a seed, right? You start small, and we figure things out. You sometimes it breaks, sometimes you bend, right? But over time, we get better, we improve our processes, we get more resources. The community knows about us and supports us, and you know, at some point we'll get to the stage where we're supposed to be, and so that's where we're growing to now.
So in this expanding our knowledge, right? Because a black bookstore, who's one of the main purposes is to showcase these amazing black authors, and I know it's not limited to black authors, but I mean people who otherwise can't get in other spaces have a home here, right?
Right.
But the knowledge and the information that they have in those pages are very important to the community.
Absolutely.
So I do see where this is a very needed thing, right? How were you able to convince people to put their books in your store, being that it was so small, very minimal reach at that point in the beginning?
Yeah.
Or did you have people just flooding in saying, hey, hold my book, take my book, take my book?
It was more the latter. And
Really?
I think, yeah, definitely.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, and I think it's because there are so few opportunities to get your book placed, right? If you're not selling online, right? If you're trying to get it into a store, do a signing, do a book launch event, you know, do those types of things where you can engage with people in real time. I think there's not a lot of opportunities for that. I mean, just bookstores in general are going away, and black bookstores, you know, when America catches cold, black America catches fever, right?
That's right.
So
That's right.
black bookstores have been impacted far greater, unfortunately.
Yeah.
What's inspiring is that, you know, with I think since COVID and the protest movement and like this reawakening, there actually has been an increase in the number of black-owned bookstores since 2020 nationally. But you know, before then it was a decline.
Yes.
And so but regardless, there are not a lot of opportunities, at least from what we've seen, for independent authors to have their books placed. And so when we first, you know, hung our sign, and word started to get out about us, yeah, we had a plethora of authors across the board reaching out, looking to get their books in the store.
In the last 20-25 years, with the digital, digital book sales, vendors and what have you. Amazon has like almost killed the deal.
Yep.
And as you stated earlier, when America catches a cold, we get the flu, right? So did you consider that part of it, the market? When you started, did you just say, whatever, you know? Because I mean, like you said, we always had, in the bookstores that I've seen over the years in various parts of the country, they've always been kind of small, niche type thing, you know. Or if you go to a Barnes and Nobles, there was a section, understandly, there's a section, right? So you still wasn't exposed to the massive array of books that we either were looking for or authored, right?
Yep.
So did you consider that Amazon being and platforms like Amazon being so behemoth and taken away from the traditional way of selling books, was that something you considered?
It was, yeah, definitely. Just being a student of business, I knew that would be an obstacle. And so that was one of the reasons why we always knew that we would have additional components to the business. The juice bar, now we have a co-working space, we're an event space, we're an art gallery. So it was always in the business model and in the design to have multiple aspects, so we weren't solely dependent on book sales. Because one, books aren't something that people buy every day, right? Two, we know that Amazon it exists, right? And most people get their books from there. The price discounts and things like that is a hard thing to compete with. And three, the margin on books is not that great. And so that I didn't know coming into it, but the other things that I realized coming into it, but I also knew that our community would support something like this. A lot of people do still like to have the physical copies. They don't like the ebooks and stuff like that. So I knew that was, I knew that we would have that in our favor. I knew that being a Black bookstore, we'd be able to have, just generate the support from our community. And then also we'd be able to carry and promote a lot of books that even a lot of these others don't have.
They wouldn't have anyway.
They would, exactly. They don't even know about them a lot of times.
Yes.
And then again, the independent authors is something that you can't even get sometimes on Amazon and through Barnes and Noble, some of the major distributors. And so I knew that we did, even though being small, sometimes small is a good thing because you can move quicker, you can be more agile. And so we had some competitive advantages, and still do, being a Black-owned bookstore.
That's amazing. I didn't look at it that way, but it makes sense because the larger outlets may not even ask with a lot of other things,
Right.
not even consider the book being that book that you would give an opportunity to an author to have in your
Exactly.
space.
Exactly.
Which brings me to another question I wanted to ask earlier. What were some of the things that you did to send the signal out, being a new, small bookstore, to get the attention of some the authors that are looking for a home somewhere that couldn't probably get on these other platforms because of their size or whatever? How did that work for you?
Yeah, so our story is very interesting because it happened kind of in phases. So when we first opened like I said, in July of 19, we were very, very small. We were still in the hallway. We didn't have a website. I don't even know if we had social media at the time. Like we were bite-sized. I wouldn't even call it a business at the time. And so at that point, we got the word out through our network, through the community. Thankfully, we were known for working in the community, helping other businesses. We have been hosting cash mobs for a few years. We've been doing the marketplace for a few years. And so people knew about us. And so when we announced the bookstore, there was some excitement locally, right? And then we were featured on a news article because I think people started to recognize that it was the only Black-owned bookstore in Arizona. So locally, that kind of caught on and started to generate some interest, across the mainstream. And so Arizona Republic did an article on us. And then more people started to reach out, more people started to know about us. And then it was shortly after that is when George Floyd and Breonna Taylor were killed and the whole protest movement kicked off. And at that point, we remember what that moment was like, or what that time was like. And a couple of things started to happen that really were pivotal for us in our business. People started, there was an emphasis on buying Black. Right, that's just always the low-hanging fruit when people remember that we're oppressed, when people remember that things ain't so good for Black people, let's go support Black businesses.
Resurgence.
Absolutely. So that happened, and it was sustained because of the environment we were in.
The climate at that time.
The climate and the whole pandemic. So there was a sustained period of this whole buying Black. People wanted to educate themselves, which was a little bit different than every other period, because it was like this sustained look. In the news cycle, we know that something will happen, and then 24 hours later, we're talking about something different.
Absolutely.
But because of this whole environment with the pandemic and everything being shut off, you couldn't turn away, and so people started to want to educate themselves. And I think those two things combined shifted Black-owned bookstores to the forefront. And there started to be these stories. So we got featured in another national article about Black-owned bookstores, and we were featured in that. And then there started to be all these lists that got put out about Black-owned bookstores around the country. And
Amazing.
yeah, and I think at that time, I don't think there were any stores in Alabama or Arkansas or whoever comes before Arizona, so we were at the top of every list. And so
Wow.
that really is what exposed us to the world. You know, that's
Well, that
what
must
really
have been validating to you, being that you started small and you're trying to grow this thing. You have this germ of an idea,
Oh man,
and to see yourself at the top of a list nationally
it was crazy.
in Arizona, no doubt.
It was crazy.
That must have been rewarding to see that.
It was surreal.
Oh, really?
Is what it was.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, one, the time that we were in was just crazy. And then I'm getting interviewed by Yahoo News, and you know, and on the page of the paper, and you know, and then once we didn't have a website at the time, and so we literally launched our website maybe a month before this whole movement kicked off, and then right when it kicked off and those things started to trigger, we're getting hundreds of orders a day. And so that was a very it was like you said, it was very rewarding to see see it all come to fruition and see the confirmation of, okay, this is something that's needed. But yeah, it was crazy.
Now, what has your and I know it's ever growing, but what has your relationship with the authors of these amazing books are in the time from when you started blowing up in these articles to now? How's that relationship been cultivated?
Yeah, so we have a team here. So we actually have a curator, Brother True.
Oh, you got a curator now. You're stepping up. All right.
Oh man, we have to. So Brother True is our curator, and so he maintains a relationship with a lot of the authors that are in our space. And one of the things in everything that we do, we want to grow. Just like we want to grow, we want to grow those around us. And so probably one of our most, I guess, prominent authors in the space and prolific authors in the space is a brother, Javion Jones. And so I think we have he's put out maybe 8 books since being with us, and we have all of his books in the space. And so I think having those relationships with authors, providing that opportunity for authors, and every time he releases a book, he comes and he does a signing, he does a reading. And so we have a number of children's book authors in the space that do a similar thing. And so I think it's a great relationship and a great opportunity for all of us because we're able to provide, you know, even though it's not a big platform, we're able to provide our platform and raise awareness and provide exposure for those authors.
Well, it looks huge online, you know, and you do have a reach. You have a great following. I was blessed to come to a recent event that you had here, which was my first time visiting the Grassroots bookstore, and the place was packed. So talk about your reach to the community and how you were able to grow it to the point when you have an event. And I know sometimes maybe the person who's speaking may have something to do with that, but still, you send a signal out and people come.
Yeah.
What's that relationship been like, and how has that been cultivated?
Yeah, man, our community here is amazing. I hope people don't take for granted what we have here in Phoenix, Arizona. We have an amazing community. Even though we're spread out, our community is supportive. Our community shows a lot of love. Our community is doing a lot. And so I think by our intentional showing our love to the community shows it back. You know, that's just been my experience. You know, we host a lot of events here, from Chess Day every Sunday to Children's Story Time to community events to you know, celebrating, honoring the Black Panthers' 50th anniversary a few years ago. You know, we just do everything we can, everything within our power to support our community. And like I said, the community shows that love back. We have the Dr. Umar event, which is the one you're referring to. It was probably our first time really going big with our marketing and really going big with getting the word out about who we are and what we do. And it's more of me probably getting in the way, I always see us as evolving. I always see us as growing and getting to where, we want to be. And so for the longest time, I felt like I wanted everybody's first experience to be the wow, right? The first impression to be the wow, and for us to have everything how we envision it, right? Especially when it came to our kitchen and having our cafe and things like that going. And so we never really pushed it because we were trying to get those things in order. And so we had just completed all those things right before the Dr. Umar event. And so we have been starting to promote, starting to market, starting to get the word out there more. And then that's when, just as fortune would have it, that's when Umar actually reached out to us and said, hey, I got an available date, if you guys would like to have me come out, let's make it happen. And so it was a no-brainer, right? Because we knew that that what it would bring to the space as far as awareness, we knew what it would bring to the space as far as excitement and us being able to live out our mission of bringing our community together, us focusing on the education, on the empowerment, on the solutions, right? And then at the same time, being able to do good business as well.
So what was it like for you and your team, not to say that you're starstruck or anything, but what was it like for you and your team, particularly you, to think about that little room that you started this idea of, and then you got a room full of people hosting Dr. Umar Johnson, a national figure. What was that like for you?
Still surreal. But again, it was very rewarding. I felt fortunate and privileged to be able to water that seed, right? Wherever the seed continues to grow and who it continues to touch and benefit, but just to be able to play a small part, because I don't believe ideas belong to us, right? I just believe they come through us. And so to be able to play a small role in the life of this idea, and then to see this place packed from wall to wall. And we had, I don't know if you saw it, but we had 2 other rooms in the other side of the building with people watching on the screen.
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah,
wow.
yeah,
because
yeah,
I know
yeah.
it was packed in the main area here.
Oh yeah, yeah. This place was packed out, and then we had 2 more rooms that were all full to capacity. And so yeah, so just to see that, and then to see people find out about, not just our business, but all of the businesses here, all of the work that's happening here. There's a school next door. So to see people realize, what is taking place in this little corner of East Lake Park, in this section of downtown Phoenix, that's what it's all about.
Right, and I have to correct myself. Dr. Umar is an international figure.
Yeah, right.
So,
absolutely. Absolutely.
Contrary to popular belief, he's known worldwide.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
He, graced us with his presence
absolutely.
and his knowledge, and it was a very enriching evening as well.
Yeah, and like I said, we're eternally grateful because it was another pivotal moment for us, Even this opportunity came out of that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so for him reaching out to us to say, hey, I would love to come to Phoenix, Arizona, and come to your space, right? Because there's any number of venues here that could fit thousands of people, right? And people, were constantly making that suggestion, like, you should do it at a bigger space, space. But our goal with that was to let people know about what we're doing here.
I think that was smart, and I'm glad you did it that way.
Yeah.
That's forward thinking on your part, because it shed light on grassroots bookstore, what you're doing here, and on a national level, from my opinion, you're able to get a figure like Dr. Umar in here that speaks volumes without having to use all these other resources to do it.
Right.
Very smart on your part.
Thank you.
So we talked about your inception and how it developed and everything. I want to talk a little bit about the co-oping you do.
Okay.
Right? You talked about art. You talked about having events here. Do you do like with your paintings and things, which are beautiful? Is it like a consignment type situation? How did that develop for you, and how could a person get their stuff in here if they wanted to?
Sure. So, I mean, you got to understand, again, our founding, and even prior to the founding with Archwood, everything we do is tied to community, right? A lot of the books in here, a lot of the art, a lot of the sculptures and furniture stuff were donated from the community, right? If it makes sense in our space, we want to have it in our space. And then literally right next door, is AfriSoul Marketplace. That's a space for Black-owned businesses who have products to have their products in the store. Right around the corner, we also operate Acres Community Creators Marketplace, another opportunity for entrepreneurs and artisans, those who have a product who are trying to get their business in the store and sell it in retail. You know, we have those opportunities available. That's a thread that's woven through everything that we do. We want to see our people win, and it's an easy thing to do when you have a space like this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the first things I hear from a person that just touched ground in Arizona, a Black person, is that there's not a lot of things to do among Black folks here. And I'll tell you, in my journey in a year and a half, I found that to be not true.
Yeah,
and you guys take up most of the air with all of the things that you have going here. So just by a person associating themselves with the various co-ops you have going on here, they can pretty much get all they need. They're looking for the culture. They're looking for, find out what's going on in our community.
Right. I always say it's hard to find what you don't look for, right? If you're sitting home and you're just waiting on something to fall in your lap, you're probably not gonna find it, right? And relatively, depending on where you're coming from, it may not have as many things going on as some of these major areas that are, have a much higher population of our community. But there's a lot of things going on here. We have always tried to position ourselves, and at this point we are positioning ourselves to be a hub, to be, the heart of the culture here. And so we have, other events that are happening in the city. We have the information here. Other businesses, we have Black-owned business directory here. We host a lot of events in this space. And so people are looking to get connected, looking to, learn more about the culture or learn about other events that are happening here. It's a great place to come, even just come hang out and connect with other people. Because the other thing about Phoenix is that it's still largely a blank canvas too. And so what's wrong with starting something, right?
Yes.
So we'll actually be starting, it's a brother in the community named Asar. He's starting up a poetry and music and art event called Inspired Roots. So that'll be launching later this month. And so, yeah, there may not be something specifically what you're looking for, but there's nothing wrong with creating something as well.
Absolutely, I'm glad you said that. So where do you see the Grassroots Bookstore? And I know it's connected to all these other amazing businesses, but for the bookstore itself, what do you see, and the juice bar, which I'm going to try that with a bean before I leave here.
There you go.
Where do you see the Grassroots Bookstore going from here?
Yeah, so I definitely don't believe in starting something without, going all the way. And so we have a very big vision for this brand and for this business, both on the business side, but even more so on the community impact side. We started this with the idea of having it to be an investment for the community, and more so for the people who are driving it, right, and who are putting their hands to the work of building this up, right? And so it's a worker-owned entity, but also we aspire to be a community-owned entity, right? How we figure that out and how we structure it, I haven't figured that part out yet. But the idea in my head is what if Starbucks, what if some of the biggest Barnes & Noble, some of the biggest brands that are out there, these Fortune 500 companies, were owned by the people, right? Owned by the workers and owned by the community. What would that look like? What kind of change would that bring about? And so, we want to have an establishment in every major city, especially those that sadly don't have Black-owned bookstores, which is a lot. Even though it's growing, there's probably 20 30 Black-owned bookstores across the country.
Oh, that low, huh?
Oh man.
Wow.
And you know, it's predominantly in the cities that you would think, right? Atlanta has quite a few. New York City has quite a few. You know, LA in the Bay Area, they have several. But you have whole states that don't have a Black-owned bookstore. And so, or major cities, you know, that, like Phoenix, that have a large Black population but don't have any Black-owned bookstores or any community spaces like this. And so, the goal is to expand the model. You know, I think we've proven the concept of having, you know, the bookstore, the cafe, the art gallery, the co-working, the meeting space, you know, event space. All of these complementary business models work very well together. And so the goal now is to, you know, continue proving the concept here in Phoenix and continue to grow and scale it, and then expand it, you know, and then expand it to other communities, partner with other nonprofits, you know, in other cities, so that the more than just the business succeeds, right? When we open an establishment, let's say if we go to, you know, Dallas, Texas, well, no, Dallas has one, but let's say we go to El Paso, Texas, which is another city I grew up in. Similar demographics to Phoenix. It's about 6 to 7% Black people, almost 1 million people in that city. No Black-owned bookstore, right? And so I have a lot of friends and family there, so they're like, you know, we need a location here. If we go to a city like that, imagine the impact that it makes on that community. It's a space for the community to gather. It's a job creator. It's something that's providing knowledge, something that's providing healthy food and drinks and juices and smoothies, sea moss, like everything we do is about health. And then it's something that is investing in the community, providing resources, providing opportunities in the community. And so it can really be a change agent in any city across not just the country, right? Any city in the world, it could be a change agent, just like it has been one in Phoenix. And so that's the long-term vision for me, is to open up locations like what we have here in Phoenix and other cities.
Oh, that would be great. I'm a little ignorant to this, although I try to keep my ear to the ground as far as the culture is concerned. My perception is that we as Black people are losing the appetite for this type of thing. And I hope you're telling me that I am 120% wrong.
Well, what is this type of thing? Just so I'm clear.
100% owned Black bookstore that showcases and sells Black books from Black authors.
Oh yeah, I think you're way off.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think it's the opposite.
Thank you.
I think it's the opposite.
I'm glad I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Wrong.
You know,
because I grew up in this environment, and I saw where it fell off.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Got you. Yeah. People are looking for culture. People are starving. They're thirsty for it, right? And so people come in here, and it's like a breath of fresh air, right? It's like a weight gets lifted off of them when they come into spaces like this. Okay. So I think that's going to continue. And then even for those that may not be searching for it, I think a lot of people don't realize how much they need it, right? How much something like this is missing. We get young people coming in here, especially on our chess Sundays are amazing because you get young people coming in, sitting down, excited to play chess.
That's great.
You got young people sitting across the table from elders. Like, it's just such a beautiful thing to witness. And that's why I like that we have more than just the books, because not everybody's a reader. Right? You know, we recognize that, and so we don't expect everybody to come in here and grab a book off the shelf and go home and, you know, thumb through it and come get another book next week. But, you know, that's why we have so many other things. That's why we do our events. That's why we have the juice bar. That's why we have, you know, story time, chess day. Like, that's why and that's just the tip of the iceberg, right? Poetry night, self-defense classes. Like, there's really no limit to what we can do.
Now, with all these things that you do in the community, all these events, do people reach out to you to do these events, or are these things that you're developing and you're putting on yourself, and you're just reaching out to the people that can do it or make it happen?
It's both. Yeah,
Okay.
it was definitely both.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, early on, it was all us, because we were also using the events to get the word out about what we do.
Yeah.
But now, yeah, it's probably, I don't know, maybe 50-50 of people who are wanting to do events here, and just want to rent the space out, or while we're open, people want to come in and do a book club. Yeah, so it's both.
Okay, that's great. So, I mean, you've got so many different beautiful things going on here, but more than anything else, your connection to the community is really, really strong, and it's very profound. So I think that what you're doing is such a needed thing, because people are coming here, as you know, are flooding here all the time, and they're looking for some culture. Phoenix and Arizona on a whole is not known for its culture in the Black community.
Right.
Although the best kept secret is that we have had a thriving Black community historically, although it's very small. Right. And we've all gotten away from that. So it sounds like what you're doing with Archwood Exchange, Grassroots Bookstore, you're bringing that that community kind of together. And I think that's an amazing thing.
That's the goal, and I think that's the solution, right? When we I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, when we come together and we take a serious look at the things that we face, right? The things that are holding us back, and we make a decision to do something about it, we'll be unstoppable.
Absolutely, I totally agree.
Right, but we got to come together, right? We have to come together, and we have to get back to that true community, that true love and brotherhood and sisterhood. We have to get back to that first, right? And then the rest of it falls into place. But when we're separate, we're not connected, we're not thinking about each other and what our people are going through, it's easy to get distracted. It's easy to explain it away, or to just not be cognizant of it at all.
And there shouldn't be a major national crisis that happened that brings us together. It should be people like you doing the everyday thing like you're doing.
Yeah, but that's American life.
Right.
I think Dr. King said that American life militates against us, right?
Yes.
And so it's a sleeping pill sometimes.
Yeah.
So yeah, you gotta train your mind to think a little different.
Mr. Ali, what would you like people to know about you?
Oh wow, nothing, man. It's not about me.
I hit you on that one.
Yeah, you did. I know I haven't been asked that one before, but the truth, it's not about me.
Yeah.
It's not about me at all. And so I don't. Hopefully, people don't think that there's something unique or special about me, because it's not. I'm just a servant. I woke up one day, like I said earlier, it was Trayvon Martin's killing that really shook me, and it put me on this path of self-discovery and exploration of why something like that was allowed to happen. And I think too often we explain it away, right? Or we just say that's the way it is. But it doesn't have to be. That's not the way that things have to be, and that's definitely not the way things should be. And so for me, it started this process of awakening, but more so, what can I do about it, right? What can I do about it, so that, in the future, I didn't have any children at the time, but in the future, my children don't live in a world where something like that happens. And so, but we all have that ability. And to me, we all, at least a lot of us, have a responsibility. And so that's the only thing really to know about me, is that it's not about me. It's about, what we can do together to collectively change the future for those coming after us.
Well, thank you for that, Mr. Ali, and I think that is something to be noted about a person like you, because that is important. That's what made all this happen. So thank you for that. How can we find you, and where are you on social media?
Our social media everything is all Grassroots Bookstore. On Instagram it's Grassroots Bookstore, Facebook Grassroots Books and Juice Bar, and then Archwood Exchange. We have archwoodexchange.com, and Acres is our nonprofit that we just launched. Grassrootsbookstore.com. Go to the contact us. If it's a book, we have forms, we have links that people can submit their work, and we'll review it and follow up. If it's artwork, just use the contact us form and send us some links to your artwork or any product that you have, or you can come down here and and check us out and talk to us. But we try to make that process pretty easy.
All right, thank you so much for that. And this is an amazing place, and this has been even more enriching than I thought it was going to be. Thank you so much for giving me the time.
Oh man, thank you.
Yeah, I think I made a friend here today.
Oh,
so thank you.
absolutely, man.
All right.